Okay guys, this is the Lyman case prep machine. It comes with little brushes, little holders here, holders on this side. Comes with a little brush, a little container here where you can brush all your little shavings in, like that. Basically what this does is it finishes a prep on the cases. This here is for the inside of the case mouth. This is for the outside. Takes the burrs off, which we've already done that with on this 300 blackout. I've already done that with that trim machine, the trimmer. So right now all we got to do is just prepare the primer pocket. On many of these cases, especially if you notice the case has a little cross on it, that means it's a NATO round. Any military round for the most part will have the primer will be crimped in place, which means you got to remove the crimp if you're going to put a new primer in there. They're a little hard to get out, but they're almost impossible to put in. You know, it's a little hard to get the old primer out, but it's almost impossible to put a new primer in unless you remove that crimp. You can probably do it, but you're gonna have to put a lot of pressure on it. It's got a switch over here. Turn the machine on. We have a little brush here that'll clean the primer pocket. Kind of move it around. This tool here takes the crimp off the primer pocket, the military crimp. You want to make sure you don't put any pressure with your finger, because this is sharp. This can cut you. You want to put the pressure on the sides. That'll take, what that'll do is that'll create a little bevel right at the edge of the primer pocket. And it'll take the crimp off, and it'll also make it easier to seat that new primer. And then you want to make sure that your primer pocket is uniform, and this is what this little cutter does. Put it in there, put some pressure on it, and it cleans it right up. Makes it nice and shiny, and it also makes it uniform back to factory standards. So a primer will go right in. It'll also make sure it goes into the proper depth. Basically, it makes that pocket brand new because there's enough material there. Now, there are times that the primer is the pocket is expanded past the point of it being of any use. If you go and you try to set a primer and you notice it goes in real easy, then it's probably a good idea to pop that primer out and get rid of the case. I've noticed on 223, probably 1%, 2% of the cases have expanded primer pockets, and you really don't want to use those cases, because I mean, odds are the case has already been stretched or stressed to its limit up here. Generally, when you have a loose primer, it means that there might be something else wrong with the brass, and you certainly don't want your primers falling out at the worst possible moment. So that's why it's good when you're seating a primer. It's good to have a feel. You need to have a certain feedback from that lever that lets you know that primer is going. There's an interference fit on that primer, and it's not going to come out by itself. It's not just going to fly out. At the very least, it'll create a no fire condition where you gotta clear the gun, recycle it manually to insert another live round. Potentially, it could be dangerous if the bolt slams down and ignites the primer. Say the primer falls out and the bolt slams back in and ignites the primer before the bolt can close. It'll create a dangerous condition. It could ignite the charge inside your cartridge in an out of battery condition, which means a bolt will come flying out and could potentially kill somebody, or at the very least destroy the firearm. So you want to avoid loose primer pockets. If there's any doubt, throw it away. It's not worth it. That's pretty much it. You got wire brushes here you can put on. I don't really use these. You know, you can put them up here and you can use it to clean the case mouth and, you know, get them nice and clean. But, you know, usually they're clean anyway. I mean, I don't have any problems with that. Very rarely do I have a case that has corrosion buildup or anything on there where I gotta use these little brushes. Mainly it's the primer pockets, taking the military crimp off and then putting them back to factory, sizing it back, making sure it's cut to factory standards. And that's pretty much it. On cases that you trim without that 3-way trimmer, then it's a good idea to come in here and just kind of lightly touch it. Lightly touch it over here and over here. Get a nice little chamfer. You want an interior chamfer in here so that your bullet cleans, seats cleanly. Also, if you're using flat bottom bullets, you want to have a small chamfer. Gives you a nice clean start without damaging your bullet. So, I mean, it's a nice little machine. I've tried doing it by hand, using those hand trimmers and all that. And I mean, it's okay if you're a target shooter and you only got to do 50 rounds for the next competition or something. But if you got to do hundreds, then this is the way to go. I think I'm in it probably $125, $150. But you know, I've done thousands of rounds with it. I mean, it still runs as good as the day I bought it. So it's made by Lyman. It's a pretty good little machine. Over and out.